Hello guys, so let's talk about Beowulf. So Beowulf is a heroic poem, the highest achievement of Old English literature and the earliest European vernacular epic. So the work deals with the events of the early 6th century, and while the date of its composition is uncertain, some scholars believe that it was written in the 8th century. Although originally untitled, the poem was later named after the Scandinavian hero Beowulf, whose exploits and character provide its connecting theme. So Beowulf falls into two parts. It opens in Denmark where King Hrothgar has a splendid mead hall known as Heorot, a place of celebration and much merriment. However, the joyous noise angers Grendel, an evil monster living in a nearby swamp. For 12 years, the creature terrorizes Heorot with nightly visits in which he carries off Hrothgar's warriors and devours them. After learning of the Danes' trouble, young Beowulf, a prince of Geats in what is now southern Sweden, arrives with a small band of retainers and offers to rid Heorot of its monster. So Hrothgar is astonished at the little-known hero's daring but welcomes him. After an evening of feasting, much courtesy and some discourtesy, at one point, one of Hrothgar's men insults Beowulf. The king retires, leaving Beowulf in charge. During the night, Grendel comes from the moors, rips open the heavy doors, and devours one of the sleeping Geats. He then grapples with Beowulf, who refuses to use a weapon. Beowulf grips one of Grendel's hands with such force that the monster finally wrenches himself free only when his arm is torn off at the shoulder. So mortally wounded, Grendel returns to his swamp and dies. Beowulf then displays the monster's arm in Heorot for all to see. So the next day is one of rejoicing in Heorot, and a feast is thrown in Beowulf's honor. However, as the warriors sleep at that night, Grendel's mother, another swamp monster, comes to avenge her son's death, and she kills one of Hrothgar's men. And in the morning, Beowulf dives into her mere or lake to search for her, and she attacks him. They struggle in her dry cave at the mere's bottom, and Beowulf finally kills her with a sword. In the cave, Beowulf discovers Grendel's corpse, whose head he cuts off and takes back to Heorot. And then, the Danes rejoice once more. Hrothgar makes a farewell speech about the character of the true hero, and Beowulf, enriched with honors and princely gifts, returns home to King Hygelac of the Geats. The second part passes rapidly over Hygelac's subsequent death in a battle of historical record. So the death of his son and Beowulf's succession to the kingship and his peaceful rule of 50 years. However, the tranquility ends when a fire-breathing dragon becomes enraged after a man steals from its treasure-filled lair. So the creature begins ravaging Geatland, and the brave but aging Beowulf decides to engage it. Despite knowing that he will likely die, the fight is long and terrible, a painful contrast to the battles of his youth. Painful too is the desertion of all his retainers, except for his young kinsman, Wiglaf, who comes to his aid. They ultimately kill the venomous dragon, but Beowulf is mortally wounded from a bite in the neck. Before he dies, he names Wiglaf his successor. Beowulf is cremated on a funeral pyre, and his remains are buried in a barrow built by the sea. As his people mourn his death, they also express the fear that without Beowulf, Geatland will be invaded by nearby tribes. So that's the story of Beowulf. Thank you.